Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new video. So if you have been following me in my car's journey, you guys know that I work on the car a lot. I do all of my own modifications in this garage. You guys see me do walkthroughs, you guys see me do full installs, reviews and all that. And 9 times out of 10, I'm crawling under the car and getting the work done. As I'm getting older, jacking the car up and working with about 4 inches of space between the bottom of the car and my face is no fun anymore. In my younger days, I didn't mind it as much, but at this point in my age and my life, it has become more of a nuisance than anything. There's been times when I've had to install something, but I just kept putting it off and putting it off, mainly because I didn't feel like going under the car. I didn't feel like jacking it up. I didn't feel like putting jack stands on and everything and worrying if they're in the right spot or if something's gonna fail. As you get older and the more you experience life, that kind of stuff, it worries you more than it ever has in the past. When you're younger, you're kind of just fearless and you can do whatever you want and you don't really care, you don't really think about it. But when you have experience under your belt, that stuff kind of goes into the front of your mind. So real quick story time, I want to get you caught up of how this came about. The other day, I was working on my car underneath. I had it on jack stands and everything. And the whole time I was just kind of cursing my mind out. I was like, man, this is ridiculous. I'm too old to be doing this, crawling under cars, working with no space between my face and the bottom of the car, contorting my body in ways that it normally would be able to. And that, was a little bit harder for me these days. I'm still somewhat athletic in certain ways, but I'm not as nimble as I used to be in my younger days. So funny story is that I went and just looked on my camera, which is right up here, and I caught a little clip of me underneath the car. I posted a quick story to my Instagram of that shot. I'll put it up on the screen for you guys. And you can see me just laying under there, just not happy, barely with any space. My legs are sticking out. Funny enough, or crazy enough, I should say, Quickjack actually reached out to me. Now, I am beyond humbled about this. This is something that, honestly, I have been eyeing for many, many, many years. I know a lot of you have been telling me to get one of these for so long. And honestly, I have been wanting to get one forever. I always kept on waiting for Black Friday, for the holiday sales and everything. And for whatever reason, I just never ended up biting the bullet. And the main reason is because, I'm a dad of 3 and, I got a lot of other things going on than just cars. And, forking over the amount of money to buy this, it was always kind of on the back burner. I was like, maybe I'll do it this year. Maybe I'll do it later. And I just never did it. But because I posted that story, Quickjack reached out to me and was like, hey man, we would love to work with you. You seem like somebody that would really benefit from using this type of system. And instantly I was completely humbled, and they were willing to partner with me and they wanted to send this out to me. Still blown away by this. This doesn't happen to people like me, channels this small. I'm very, very, very thankful and very fortunate that Quickjack was so cool about it. And there was kind of no questions asked, and they sent this out to me. They're like, hey, what are you looking at? What are you interested in? And here we go. I ended up picking up the 5000 TLX model, which is the 5000 rated lift. TLX is the longer version, which is recommended for the F80 M3 and also for the other cars that I have. I'll go over the different models that they have as well, but I decided to go with the 5000 TLX. And they also sent out a few other goodies. This box right here is the actual motor that actually is going to power the lift. So that is obviously included. But they sent out a few other things, which I'm very, very thankful for. I'm still missing one thing, I believe, and maybe in one of these boxes, but I still think it's en route. The 2 actual lifts, they were a couple days late comparing to this. I got this about 5 or 6 days ago, and these were trailing behind. These 4 boxes, this one, and those 2. So I still think there's one more en route. But either way, they sent out some other things that I'm very, very thankful for. One of which is actually these. These are the lower profile pads that you can use for lower cars. Normally these are much thicker and bigger, but I decided to go with the lower profile ones because my M3 is so low. And also a really cool thing that they sent out. This is something that I've always wanted to have in my cars for road trips, just in general. I'm most likely going to keep this in the truck at all times. But this is called a jack pack. So basically what this is an air pump. This is a flashlight on one side. Yeah, there you go. So you can charge your phone and stuff like that. They got a USB and C port as well. I mean, this thing is absolutely awesome. And we're actually gonna be using this to set all this up, because you actually need to pressurize the system. So I'm excited to use that. But the cool thing is you literally just set it to whatever PSI you want. and then you just hit pump and you are good to go. How amazing is that? There's no guessing and taking it off a million times to see what the PSI is sitting at. So this is really, really, really cool. Very thankful that they wanted to send this out to me as well. Real quick before we start unboxing and I start setting this thing up, show you how to do it all. I just want to go over the quick models of everything that they do have, because I know it is a little confusing, at least it was for me at first, but when you start breaking things down, it makes a little bit more sense. So they have quite a few different versions of this, or different models. They have the 3500, the 5000, 6000, and 7000. Basically, the numbers are the limits that this can lift. So the 3500 can lift 3,500 pounds, 5,000, 5,000 pounds, 6,000, 6,000 pounds, and 7,000, 7,000 pounds. So there's also a TL, there's also a TLX, there's also an EV version as well that is more geared towards electric cars, just the lengths of them and everything. I decided to go for the TLX, which is about 6 inches longer than the normal TL. Basically, it gives you a little bit more length to be able to properly lift the cars that you are lifting. And I decided to go with the 5,000 version because all the cars that I do have are under 5,000 pounds. My M3, I believe, is around 3,400 pounds. The Telluride is around 4,200, and even my truck is under 5,000. I believe it's like 4,600 pounds. I really don't have plans on using this for my truck, mainly because it's so easy to get underneath because it's pretty high. But maybe one day we'll try it. It is rated for 5,000 pounds, so it should be able to lift that truck up no problem. It is a newer F-150, so it's aluminum body, so it's much lighter than the older ones. So this would be able to lift it if I needed to. So I'm gonna go ahead and unbox all this stuff, show you everything that is included. You may notice there's the top missing on this one. That's because in shipping, the top box of this got kind of torn up, and I wanted to open it up, make sure everything was included and nothing was missing when the delivery driver was here. So that is why that one is off. But I mean, this is what it looks like. You get a left and a right. You also get the pump or the motor. So as you can see, it says box 1 of 3. This says box 2 of 3, and this says box 3 of 3. Obviously, the other accessories you have to pay extra for. So these two things you have to pay extra for. It also came with a GPS tracker as well, which is pretty darn cool. Thank you. So let me go ahead. Let's unbox this. Let's check it out. Let's see everything that you get. And man, I'm still blown away by this. So let me take this out of the packaging and see what this thing looks like. All right, guys, so I got everything unpacked, what you get in the entire set of your Quickjacks. Now, I did realize that you do get a few different mounting blocks. So you get bigger ones you can use for bigger cars. You also get lower profile ones. But the ones that I did get, I believe I was supposed to get the lower profile ones. These are the ones with the pinch weld, which is not the end of the world, simply because I can use these on other cars. I know my STI had the pinch welds, so those will come in handy maybe in the future, but I'll most likely use these. All they do is sit right in there, and they go right onto the little mounts of where your jack points are on your car. Also, I was playing around with the little jack pack as well, and I noticed on the back here it actually has everything that it does. So I wanted to go over that real quick. As I mentioned, it's a 12-volt USB charger, as well as a C port as well. It's got the LED flashlight. It's also a battery jumper. Very cool. So if your car is obviously on the side of the road and you have a dead battery or you're parked or whatever, you can actually jump this. It actually has some jumper cables in here, which is pretty darn cool. So there are the jumper cables in there. And what else? Yeah, it's the air compressor, obviously. But it's 150 max PSI. 2,500 peak amps. The thing is pretty darn cool. Let me just show you the little flashlight. Again, I was playing with this thing off camera, and it's really cool, and it's nice and compact too. So you hold it down there, and wow, that thing is incredibly bright. Also, it has a strobe and then a slower strobe as well. So this thing is amazing. I'm kind of hyped about this thing. Here's the little ports for the jumper cables. I showed you over here for the USB and the C port. I'm stoked about this thing. This thing is awesome, and the little digital display there is very clear and easy to read. But this thing is way higher quality than I was expecting. Not to say that I was expecting poor quality. The overall craftsmanship and robustness of this thing is very impressive. I was pretty surprised about the overall weight of this thing, which is a good sign that it's obviously made, super high quality, and it's not some cheapo, thin metal, obviously, because you're lifting a very heavy thing and you obviously want something very sturdy. But here you go. This is what it looks like. Now, the great thing about this is these can just slip under your car and you can leave them there if you want, or you can use the wall hangers, which I believe are still en route, as I mentioned. You simply just hook the little mounts on the wall. I'm probably going to put some 2x6s over there. I'm going to mount them between those two studs. I do plan on getting the sheetrock, or at least the rest of the garage sheetrock, so it'll go up on that wall either way. But pretty awesome. So it's going to be completely out of the way no matter what, and it's very easy to move on the Swiss tracks. It's not going to be hard or anything like that. On concrete, you're going to have to pick them up because you don't want to scratch them. But the really cool part about it is they do have little wheels back here. So you can actually lift up the side over there and just kind of wheel them around and put them into place. Now, let's go over the air pump or the compressor that you get. These are the air lines and everything that you're going to be running from the jack to the actual compressor over here. These are all the fittings that are included. You're going to have to do a little bit of work to get it kind of functioning, which is not hard. It's simply just twisting on some fittings. And they also include some thread sealant as well, which is really nice. So they give you everything that you need to properly get all the lines ran and everything. The only thing that you need to purchase on your own is some ATF or hydraulic fluid. I'm most likely just going to get some ATF, which is like power steering, hydraulic fluid, that kind of stuff. And it fills up in this container or this reservoir over here. Now, you may receive your compressor and it may have some ATF on there. As you can kind of see, there's still some on there. And I was thinking maybe they filled it, but I was like, you know what? They probably actually test these before they send them out. So they have to fill these up with some hydraulic fluid. So that is most likely why, you are seeing a little bit of a residual around here. So don't think your compressor is leaking or anything like that. It comes completely empty. They most likely, I'm pretty sure that they test these prior to sending them out. So that is why you may have a little bit of residual hanging out. But here is the control. So it doesn't get any simpler than that. Down, up. The locking system is pretty cool. It's much like a normal lift. So these right here, the little arms, are actually the locking arms. So when you are raising it up, you'll hear it actually click into different locking sections. So you know that the jack is properly locked into place. So you lift it up and then you hear it click and then you back it off and it'll go down and lock into place. So I do not have ATF fluid with me right now, but I'm most likely going to pick some up tomorrow morning so we can get this thing properly set up, properly bled, fill these little canisters right here with some air. We're going to be using the jack pack over there. I believe you have to fill up to 40 to 50 PSI. I probably do 45. You can use an air compressor or you can use a pump of some sort if you use for, blowing up basketballs or what have you. But I'm going to use a jack pack because I have it. I want to try it out. It's going to be really simple. But now one thing I want to mention is that the Quickjacks is going to be fantastic on Swiss tracks. If you guys know, that is what the flooring I do use. I have a lot of friends that use these and they work great on it. And as I mentioned earlier, they're very easy to maneuver around on Swiss tracks. And the main reason is because when you use jack stands, the weight is so focused on the arms of the jack stands that it can damage the tiles. You can actually see one right there. I just did that the other night. I usually put some foam inserts right there underneath the jack stands to protect it, and it usually does a good job. But for whatever reason, it ended up damaging this tile just a little bit. It's not the worst thing in the world. Honestly, I have a bunch of replacements. I could just pop it out and put a new one in. It's happened before in the past, and it literally just pops out and pops in, and you're good to go. If this was epoxy, you would be screwed. That is one of the main reasons why I love Swiss tracks. But the point that I wanted to make is that the Quickjack system is the entire weight of the car is evenly distributed throughout the entire lift. Where on jack stands, it's pinpointed to that one specific spot on the four little arms in this area. Whereas this, the entire weight is distributed through the whole thing. So it's gonna be much safer. You're not gonna damage your Swiss tracks or your epoxy flooring or whatever you may have on your garage floor or your shop floor. So I'm very, very excited about that. I'm excited that I don't have to replace any more tiles. So I wanted to mention that real quick. Now, before we get on to the setup, I just want to take a quick moment and say thank you. A huge, unbelievably huge shout out to Quickjack for sending this out. Honestly, I am unbelievably humbled. I know this is a pretty common thing for social media people, YouTube people, whatever you want to call it. I know a Quickjack system is a pretty common thing these days. This is a really cool system for people like us that just work in the garage, that's in a, you know, pretty average size garage, a 20 by 20, nothing massive. It fits 2 cars, but it's pretty tight. And you don't have room for a full lift. But something like this is absolutely perfect for people like me, for people like you know, that may be watching this video that may have a 1-car garage or even no garage at all, and you just want something to be able to lift your car up safely and high enough and not have to worry about jack stands and, you know, what brand you're using and all that stuff. So, you know, having something like this for me is literally a game changer for me. This is massive. Honestly, I'm gonna be wanting to do so much more work to my car, you know, getting under it, doing things that I wouldn't normally do. One of the things I always wanted to do was do a full wheels off detail. Now, I could have obviously done that with my jack and jack stands, but it's a pain in the butt, and I never did it because it was so much work to get the car on jack stands. Now I simply could just slide these under, lift it up, take all 4 wheels off, and do a full, you know, in-depth detail with the wheels off, clean the wheels very thoroughly, clean all the wheel wells and everything. And I think it's gonna be so fun to do. And I'm gonna film it and do a whole video on that for you guys because it's something that I really, really enjoy doing. Obviously, exhaust work, maintenance work, doing oil changes, doing diff flushes, and all that stuff that I normally do, the basic maintenance stuff on all my cars. It's gonna come in clutch. This is something that I'm incredibly humbled that Quickjack reached out to me. You know, I don't do the reaching out. I don't do that kind of stuff. That is not me. I will never be that way. And, you know, this is something that I've always wanted to have. I wanted to purchase. I've talked about it for years in my videos, and I know a lot of you are yelling at me all the time anytime I jack my car up to get one of these things. And to be in this position of what I do here and for Quickjack to send this out to me is just, it's mind-blowing. The cool part about this is that you guys know the brand Quickjack. You also may know the brand and the name Benpack. Benpack is actually the parent company to Quickjack. So you guys know all of the different options and different things available from Benpack as well. So who knows, maybe if we get a shop or a larger garage in the future, we can go ahead and work with Benpack and Quickjack again and get something, you know, maybe a full lift, or I don't know. Who knows what the future may hold. But for right now, with my dream F80 M3 and my average size 20 by 20 garage, which I'm incredibly thankful for, these things are absolutely perfect. And again, super humbled, super thankful. Can't wait to get this thing set up and obviously being used on the car. I'm going to catch back up with you guys tomorrow. I'm gonna run out tomorrow morning and get some ATF fluid so we can properly get this thing set up. And then we can take it for its maiden voyage and lift the M3 up and just see how amazing this thing is. Oh man, I'm still in shock. So, all right guys, I'll catch back up with you guys in a little bit. All right guys, so it's been a few days since I filmed the last clip, and in those few days, the hangers for the Quickjacks actually came in. They were just a day or two behind. So this is what they look like. You get 2 of them. You actually got one over there, and you just bolt them to the wall and they hook in underneath that bar right there, and then you can hang them on the wall and off the ground, which is great. So as I mentioned, I'm probably going to put them between those 2 studs there. I actually have a contractor coming out and finishing the sheetrock in the garage. We're also going to be adding a few lights and a couple other things as well, but so I'm going to wait to do that. But I figured I'd mention it since I did mention it earlier in the video that I did have those coming, so I was kind of waiting. But let's go ahead and get this set up. So what we're actually going to need is everything that was included in the kit, but there's one thing you actually need to go pick up yourself, which is some ATF fluid of your choice. It just has to be full synthetic. I just went to my local Advanced Auto Parts, got some Valvoline ATF full synthetic. Seen a lot of people use this and they're totally fine. Honestly, as long as it's ATF and it's full synthetic, you are good to go. So what we actually need to do is start putting some of the fittings on. So we're going to start over here on the hydraulic, and there's actually a plug right here that we need to remove. I think that's a, I gotta see what size it is, I'll let you know. But we actually remove this, and then we can get the first fitting put in. So they actually say that little plug there is a 6mm, so we're gonna go ahead and get a 6mm out, if I can see it. Here we go, this is a 6 right there. So we're gonna come over to the Quickjacks and simply just remove this. Oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. I'm gonna have to get an actual Allen key. Let's see. All right, so that was actually a little big, so I'm actually gonna use my new Allen keys. So let's see, 6 is the red one right there. All right, so we got the 6mm out. We're gonna come over here and simply remove this plug like that. Not much room to work, but once you get it off, I'll show you the next step. All right, so we got the shipping plugs removed. Now the next page shows you actually use the ORB end, the orb end, and the JIC end of the little fittings that are in there. The other fittings are quick disconnects, so there's only ones that look like this, and that's what we're going to be using to install on the plugs that were just removed. Now let's see, you want them fanning, not pointed straight up, but positioned towards the back. I'll show you exactly what they mean. It says position the thread fitting end as shown above. So this is the bleeder screw right back here. You want the JIC end fitted this way above that bar. So I'll show you what that looks like on the actual Quickjack. And just a quick note, it says do not use thread sealant on either end of the hydraulic elbow fitting. So on these right here, do not use any thread sealant, any tape, anything. These are good to go as is. All right, so we're on the driver's side Quickjack, and I'm going to take the little caps off, the shipping caps. The pointed end is actually going to go back that way, so it's actually going to be positioned somewhat like this, not like this, not straight up. You want it kind of positioned up on an angle like that. So all we're going to do is take the threaded end, not the narrow end, the JIC fitting as they mentioned, and thread that into the hydraulic right here. So sorry, it's kind of hard to do at the angle that I'm in, but yeah, so we're going to thread that in. And then you don't want to torque these down too tight because there is a rubber gasket there. So I'm just using an adjustable wrench here. I'm going to tighten it down until it's snug, but you don't want to wrench on this too much. It's just like a fitting for a hose, a quick disconnect. You don't want to slam it tight because if you do, there's going to be leaks. But there you go, tight enough. We're good there. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the passenger side over here. I guess I'll just do that on camera for you guys. Thread that in. All right, so I wanted to mention this real quick. They talk about liquid thread sealant as opposed to using normal Teflon tape. And they actually say on this page that they used to use Teflon tape, but they found out that some of the Teflon tape particles would kind of get into the hoses and everything. So that's why they started using thread sealer. You can use either or, but it's at your own discretion. It just says you must read carefully and read and use the following instructions of how to actually do it. So that doesn't happen. I'm not going to use Teflon tape because they literally are saying here it's not a good thing and it could cause problems. So I'm going to stick to the thread sealant that is provided. Also, another quick note that I think a lot of people skip over. When using thread sealant, it actually says allows a minimum of 24-hour curing time before pressurizing the system. So what a lot of people do, they get this set up and they're so excited and they start setting it up and pressurizing it and going through the whole bleeding process, and then they're going to have issues. So we're going to wait a full 24 hours before we're actually pressurizing it and getting it completely ready to go. So I just want to make note of that because I feel like a lot of people skip that over. All right, so now what we're actually going to do is get the short hydraulic hose ready to go. So I actually have this one over here. There's two of them, obviously for each side. So this is actually going to connect to the new little fittings that we just put in there. All right, so we got these short hydraulic hoses ready. Those are the longer ones that are going to be running to the compressor, but we're actually going to start applying some thread sealer. So you're going to get the male quick disconnect. It has a threaded side like that and a quick disconnect fitting right there. So we're actually going to attach it to the short hose, the short hydraulic hose on this side. If you look on the other side, there's kind of fittings on there that are going to get attached right to the cylinders, hydraulic cylinders on the Quickjacks. But we're going to apply some thread sealer on the first 4 threads, leaving, skipping the first one because you don't want to get in the lines. And then we're going to tighten those down. You don't want to get crazy. It says make 2 to 3 full turns using a wrench to securely tighten in place. You don't want to get crazy with them. So let me go ahead, apply the thread sealer, and get those fittings on. So both of these hoses are ready. Now we're actually going to connect the other end to the hydraulic cylinders on the Quickjack. Now it says not to use thread sealant on here, just on the quick disconnect section up here. It says tighten down, hand tight, and then do 2 to 3 turns. I just tightened it down as much as I could. I didn't, tighten down too much where I was shaking trying to tighten this thing down, but enough that I can tell it's nice and snug. So now we're actually going to slip the female end onto the male end here, and we're actually going to slip it underneath here. So let me kind of give you a little bit of a representation. So it gets slipped right under there, and then this connects right to the elbow that we installed first. Now when you're connecting this, make sure you're not cross-threading or anything. Make sure it's going on nice and smooth. And same thing, you want to tighten this down 2 to 3 turns until it's snug, and make sure it's routed underneath like that, and do the same thing on the other side. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, get that situated, and we can move on to the longer hoses and the compressor over there. All right, next up, we're going to take the longer hoses. These are the ones that are going to be ran from the Quickjacks to the compressor. And we're just going to cut the little zip ties off. And we're going to be using thread sealant on both of these sides. They're both threaded. They're both getting quick disconnects for both sides. So you're going to be doing this 4 times. I'm going to remove the little red caps here. Put some thread sealant on the first 4 threads, skipping the first one, and then screw down the fittings. We're going to take some thread sealant, put some on the threads, tighten it down, 2 to 3 turns like normal. It says 2 to 3 turns right here, and get these all set up. So I'm going to do these real quick. Probably just do the first one right now on camera and then do the rest off. All right, so we got the longer hoses all ready to go, tightened down. So now we're actually going to come over to the short hydraulic hose connection, pop these little caps off, and we're going to connect one end, each hose, to one of the quick disconnects. So we're going to take this end, as you can see, and it just pops right on. And then now we can move over to the compressor over there and get that set up. So I got everything set on the Quickjack side. Now the next thing that you would need to do is pressurize the system. You fill these little canisters right here between 40 and 50 psi. I'm going to do 45, just keep it right in the middle. But as I mentioned earlier, it says don't pressurize the system until the thread sealant that you applied in all the fittings has cured for a full minimum of 24 hours. So sure, I can go ahead and just do it now and just make the video, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it properly because that's the way I do things, and I want to make sure you guys are doing the right things as well. So I'm going to let the Quickjack lines and everything set for 24 hours, and I'll probably jump back on this tomorrow night to get everything bled and all that. But what we can do in the meantime is actually get the compressor all set up. So there's 2 more fittings that come in the box, and all we're going to do is take these little shipping plugs out and insert these into here. Now you're not going to use any thread sealant on these since it has a rubber O-ring. It says don't use any Teflon tape or anything. And then we can connect them, just wrench them down. It's nice and snug, nothing too crazy. And then this will be pretty much set, but we got to fill it with some ATF fluid as well. I suggest doing the bottom one first so you can get a wrench in there, and then the top one. And then this will be pretty much set. All right, so we got the fittings all snug down. Pretty simple, a little difficult to get to that one right there, the bottom one, because the reservoir is kind of in the way. So it's a 22 millimeter if you don't want to use an adjustable wrench like I did, but I got it snug down pretty well, so we're good there. As I mentioned, these have gaskets, little O-rings on there, so you don't need to apply any thread sealant or any tape or anything, so you're good to go there. You don't want to over tighten them as well, since it's just like a garden hose that you're putting a quick disconnect on. You don't want to do it too tight, because if you do, it pinches the seal and actually can create a leak. So just make sure they're snug. What we can actually do is actually fill up this reservoir. This funnel's a little too big. I use this for my oil changes, but I'm going to get this filled up, and it should be a 1/2 inch below the hole here. So all right, so we got the whole reservoir filled up. As you can see, it's about a 1/2 inch from the top here. So we can go ahead and just seal this up. You don't have to do this too tight or anything like that. This is actually a self-breathing valve right here. So that's good, because you won't have to worry about opening it up or anything like that. And in case there's air in there, obviously we're gonna bleed the system and everything like that, but that's a cool little feature right there. All right, so everything that I could get done now, I am finished with. I got all the hoses kind of ran. I got the reservoir or the compressor all filled up and everything ready to go. The fittings on. And again, I just have to wait for the thread sealant to seal for the full 24 hours. I'm going to catch back up with you guys tomorrow once this is fully sealed, and we can actually connect this to the compressor, bleed everything, pressurize the system with the 45 PSI, and we'll be good for takeoff on the M3. So I'll catch back up with you guys tomorrow. All right, guys, following day, everything has dried. It's been actually over 24 hours since we did the thread sealant and got all the lines ready. I actually got these flipped around the other way, so we got the compressor over there, so we're all good to go. But now what we're gonna do is pressurize the system. So if you look at these little canisters on the side of the hydraulics, there is a little canister that we're gonna fill up with air. Now it says you can do anywhere from 40 to 50 PSI. I'm gonna do 45 just to keep it right in the middle, but we're gonna use the new jack pack. So I got the little hose connected to the side. So before we actually start, they actually want you to release any air that's already in there. So you actually take the cap that is provided on the actual cylinder there, and there's this side to it, and all you do is put that side in and twist out the little valve in there, and it's going to release any air. So once that is done, go ahead and tighten it back up. Make sure that's tight. Now we can go ahead and put the air hose on there, lock it down, turn it on, set it to 45 PSI, then hold down pump, and it'll go. All right, so the jack pack, as you can see, cut off at 45, so we are good there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And then we can go ahead and start connecting the lines to the compressor and start bleeding and getting this thing ready to go. I know this has been long, but I'm just kind of taking all the necessary steps and doing a detailed install setup for you guys so you can see exactly how to do it, and so you can have your Quickjacks operating properly and them work properly, obviously. So, all right, let me go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll jump on to the next step. All right, so 45 PSI in the canisters, and we are good to go. Next step is we're actually gonna start bleeding. Now, what you need to do is actually stack up the blocks that are supplied with the compressor and this whole kit. You do 2 large and then 1 medium on top. And you want to place them underneath this plate right here, which is right by the bleeder valve, which is right there. And then we're going to connect these and start running it. Now, what we're actually gonna do is raise it up about 8 inches. You do not want it to lock into the first lock place right on here. So you're just gonna raise it up, lower it, raise it up, lower it 3 times. And then once we do it 3 times, we're gonna go ahead and crack this open. We're gonna put some rags and towels under here to get all the air out as possible. And the reason why these are lifted is because air travels up. So when it's raised like this and we start pressurizing the system and putting hydraulic fluid through the lines, the air is gonna come up this way. It's gonna rise to the highest point, and then it's going to bleed out and get all the air out of the system. So let's go ahead, let's plug this in. I gotta turn my heater off because I don't wanna pop any breakers, just to be certain. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get this done. We're gonna raise it 8 inches and then bring it back down. We're not gonna put it in the first lock position 3 times, and then we're gonna bleed it. So all you do is hold up. So right now it's pushing fluid through the lines, and it should start raising in a bit. So there we go, kind of getting some movement. All right, so they're gonna be a little uneasy at first because it's pushing the hydraulic fluid through the lines. So we're gonna do that. Hold down. All right, so right now I'm holding down. So it's moving very slightly back and forth. Can't really see it right now, but that's because there's pressure in the system. So I'm just going to keep holding it until it lowers. Then we're gonna raise it back up 2 more times. Yeah, you can see that side went down a little bit. So I'm gonna do that 2 more times. And then once we're on the 3rd lift and bring it down again, we can start bleeding. So let these things come all the way down. Right now there's a lot of air in it. That's why it's doing that. So that's not abnormal, that's normal. All right, so we did 1 cycle so far. I actually had to put my hand on this one on the left side. Didn't put any pressure. I literally just kind of laid my hand on it and then it started going down. That one wasn't going down. So just put a little bit of pressure with my hand and it went down, no problem. So now let's do it 1 more time, or 2 more times, but let's do it again. So they're gonna raise unevenly right now just because it's getting the air out. So obviously we're gonna stop before the first lock, like that. And then we're going to lower them down. Again, it's gonna take a little bit, again, just because it's got a bunch of air in it, but just pushing all the hydraulic fluid through the line. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this 2 more times, or 1 more time, and then we can go ahead and I'll show you actually how to bleed from the hydraulics. All right, so I did it 3 times. Now what I'm gonna do is take a 3/16 Allen, sorry, can't focus, and this little bleeder screw right here, get some towels, and all we're gonna do is open it up a little, and you might hear some air coming out. And the reason is because when we're putting it up and down, it was pushing all the air up to the top here since it's raised, and then we can bleed it out. Once you stop hearing the air, you can close it back up. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna do it a couple times, as many times as it needs to get the air out. So let's go ahead and get this done. All right, so if you probably heard, I don't know if you heard it because the mic is on the other way actually. So air squirted out. Maybe I'll get it on the next one just so you guys can hear it. But a little fluid leaked out, not much. You can see it on the rag there. Now I already did the other side, but I'm gonna go ahead and raise and lower it, the same thing. Get as much air out as possible. And then once I don't hear any air coming out of that, just hydraulic fluid, we're good to go. And then we actually have to go through another procedure and raise it up, open it 1 more time, then close it, and we should be good. All right, so I got the system fully bled. There's only 1 more thing to do. So I did the initial 3 times that they told me to do, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then I bled it. And then I did this one 5 more times, just up, then down, bleed, up, down, bleed. That was 5 more times. And this one was 8 more times. This one had a little bit more air in it. So what they actually tell you to do next to make sure there is no air in here, they actually tell you to raise it a little bit, put a rag underneath the bleeder screw, open it up while it's still in the air. Then any remaining air or fluid is going to seep out, tighten it back up, raise it a little bit more, do the same thing, tighten it back up, and do it for both sides, and you should be good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we should be done bleeding this entire system and everything is good to go. And then we can lift up the M3, a little nervous, but everything should be okay. So let's go ahead and get that done and see how this thing finally works. All right, guys, so I went ahead and got everything underneath. I actually ended up having to jack up the rear subframe just a little bit because the front, when I first tried it in the beginning of this video, I actually just jacked the car up, so there was a little bit more room. But since then I've driven it and everything settled, so the front was a little too low. So all I did was take a jack and bump it up a little bit in the back here on the rear subframe, and I was able to get it underneath no problem. I used the medium-sized blocks. I think I'm going to pick up the low-profile blocks. I was supposed to get those actually, but they sent the wrong ones. They sent the pitch weld ones. But I got everything centered, I got everything good. A little nerve-wracking, but let's take it for its first lift in the air. All right, guys, so it is up in the air. Everything went smoothly. I went really slow. I raised it a little bit just to make sure it's still on the proper spots, and it is. I raised it to the first notch because I wanted to make sure, obviously, but pretty darn amazing. I'm gonna go up all the way. Obviously, I don't think I know I'm not gonna hit the garage, but be mindful of your space when you're doing this. This lifts up a full, I believe, 24 inches. So you do need to be a little bit careful. You don't want to obviously raise it too high, but so far everything is good. So what I did was raise it, get past the first lock, and then back it off, and it locks in like that. So you're good, but the second lock is all the way back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that one. But before I do that, I'm gonna look at all the lines, make sure there's no leaks or anything. So far, everything looks good. Holy crap, this is amazing. I can't believe the amount of clearance underneath that I have. Honestly, that is incredible for such a simple thing, and being able to do pretty much anything that I need to do in my garage is unbelievable. I'm like blown away. This is the coolest thing ever. Oh my God, let me get some light underneath. So, I mean, geez, I can even use my creeper under here, which is insane. I never had to use or was able to use a creeper underneath a car like this, but man, oh man, this is incredible. So as you can see, it's all locked in place. And to make sure, you want to press all the way down until it's not going to go anymore. That means it's locked in. And simply to lower it, you're going to raise it a little bit more so it gets out of the lock position, and then lower it and bring it all the way down nice and safe. But man, oh man, let's get an outside shot, because this is super cool. Look at this. Holy crap. That is so cool looking. Holy crap. I'm gonna hang, oh man, I'm gonna like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I don't have anything to do in the car right now, but I'm just gonna hang out and check it out. So I actually just went underneath and tightened up my exhaust, because I recently installed this, and I just wanted to kind of tighten down all the bolts, do a bolt check, because I've been driving it and sometimes the exhaust and clamps and everything kind of loosen up. So I tightened everything up using my new 1/2-inch Wera, and it looks amazing. Oh man. So I'm literally laying sideways underneath the car. Usually I was like this, and the car was like right here. I was trying to work, but now I'm literally, I can sleep under here. This is insane. So cool. Oh my God. Amazing. All right, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and lower it. There's no need to be having the car in the air right now. The door's open, it's pretty cold right now, so I'm kind of anxious to get back inside and warm up. But all right, so when you lower it, you raise it up a little bit, and then the locking arms are free. Because usually it's like this when it's locked in. So you just lift it up and let it go like that. And then you come back over here, and then you just lower it on down. Make sure each of them are going down at the same time, which they are. Nice and safe. Make sure the tires are not hitting the lines. It's gonna go over the last lock and go all the way down. All right, so before I lower it all the way down, I'm gonna get the jack behind there so I can get that out. And yeah, we should be good. All right, guys, car is back on the ground. My anxiety is gone, knowing that it went smoothly, and I feel much more comfortable now that I tried it and did everything. Obviously, because the first time, you know, getting used to the positioning, everything, make sure it's in the right place. It's always nerve-wracking. Honestly, every single time I've jacked up a car and used jack stands, I feel the same way. But seeing how sturdy this is and how easy it was to position it and everything, I feel so much safer under the car now. It's just absolutely incredible. I know this video was a little long, but I really wanted to go over each step, show you guys exactly how to set it up. I've seen a lot of videos of people getting these and just blowing over the setup real quick, and a lot of people were confused. So hopefully my video was a little bit more clear. You guys can understand exactly how to set it up. Just make sure you bleed and bleed and bleed as much as possible until no air comes out at all, and then you'll be good to go. But honestly, Huge shout out to Quickjack. I cannot thank you enough. This is probably, oh, definitely is one of the coolest things I have ever gotten for my garage, for my car, for anything. I think it's just an absolute game changer. I'm always working on cars, as you guys know, in my videos and just in general. So being able to get the car up that high in my garage and not have to get a permanent lift in here is pretty darn amazing. And to top it all off, I'm getting the garage finished, as I kind of mentioned in the video. So having something like this is just going to be, it's going to make this whole place even cooler. Thank you guys for watching this entire thing. I appreciate you if you watched it all the way to the end here. If you guys have any questions at all about the Quickjack or the M3 or anything else at all, please leave me in the comments below. Again, huge shout out to Quickjack. Cannot thank you enough. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. In the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.